discovered how a cleaning lady's incredible translation transformed a millionaire's life forever. Maria awoke before dawn, the chill of the morning air biting her skin as she shuffled through her small home in her worn slippers. She gazed at the framed photos of her two children, their faces shining with innocence and dreams. With a knot in her stomach, she grabbed her mop and bucket, the tools of her commitment, and set off into the dim streets of her suburban town. Each day, she trudged to the enormous mansion owned by Martin, a man who had once dreamed of revolutionizing the world, but now floated in a murky sea of cynicism amidst his financial woes. As Maria crossed the threshold into the grand home, she felt the sharp contrast of opulence against her diligent simplicity. The house, filled with neglected trophies and accolades, contained whispers of despair that clung to the air. While scrubbing the floors, she noticed how the dust settled in the corners like forgotten ambitions. The sight of Martin's shadowy silhouette often sent her heart racing, a reminder of the disparity between their lives. Did he know how hard it was to keep hope alive while struggling to make ends meet? Did he see her fight for a brighter future for her children? One afternoon, while tidying a cluttered study, Maria's eyes caught a glimmer in old manuscript concealed beneath forgotten tomes. It was adorned with peculiar symbols, sparking her imagination like a match on dry grass. As she nervously traced the pages with her fingertips, overwhelming curiosity pulsated through her. How long had this wisdom been hidden? Did it hold answers for people like her, floundering in a world that spun too fast? Before she could delve deeper, her brisk cleaning routine pulled her back. She pushed the temptation aside, burdened by worries about today's bills and tomorrow's uncertainties. What if Martin saw her as just another laborer? The thought shuddered within her, the fear of being underestimated twisted in her chest. During her breaks, despite the ticking clock, she took moments to translate bits of the manuscript, finding pieces of herself within its lost words. Her internal war raged on. On one hand, she craved to unlock the knowledge for her children. On the other, vulnerability gripped her mind. The nagging doubt that perhaps she shouldn't get too close to Martin seized her heart. What if her dreams were mere delusions destined for failure? Each word she translated ignited a flicker of hope, but it also magnified the fear of stepping out of her established role, of demanding more from life. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Weeks passed, and the weight of the translations began to pull at her like a heavy anchor. It was only when Martin stumbled upon her notes that their paths began to intertwine in unexpected ways. Initially dismissive, his guarded expressions began to soften as he read her insights. A strange camaraderie blossomed between them, one filled with understanding and challenge. Yet, the palpable tension simmered just beneath the surface. She was acutely aware of the chasm that separated their worlds, and Martin's affluent peers watched closely. Their judgments loomed heavily, tainting what could have been a genuine connection. Standing in the lavish ballroom of one of Martin's events, Maria clutched a few sheets of the manuscript tightly, sweat prickling her palms as whispers swirled around them. Could they truly bridge the gap between their lives, or would the cruel tongue of society tear them apart? The moment hung in the air, thick with electricity. Every breath mingled with unspoken fear and hope, leaving Maria trembling on the brink of revelation and danger. Would she emerge intact, or would the pressures of Martin's world crush the fragile bond they had begun to form? The walls began to close in, setting the stage for a climactic confrontation looming just ahead. The music throbbed around Maria, escalating her anxiety as she tried to maintain her composure. She could feel the weight of the gazes bearing down on her, questioning her presence in this world of luxury. Each glance was a reminder that she didn't belong here, that she was just the cleaning lady, an invisible hand rather than a voice deserving of recognition. Martin's charm drew people toward him like moths to a flame, yet the warmth of his connection with her was a stark contrast to the sleek, polished relationships flitting about the room. He stood across the ballroom, a beacon of encouragement amidst the opulence, yet the distance between them felt insurmountable. Could he feel her unease? Did he realize the internal battle indelibly etched onto her heart? Gripping the manuscript sheets tighter, Maria's thoughts spiraled. Her small, handwritten insights had opened a door to transformations not just in her life, but potentially in his as well. What if by stepping forward now, she could pivot into something bigger? What if her words could unlock not only knowledge but a new path for him? Yet, what if it all crumbled? What if he just saw her as another tool, a fleeting moment of inspiration he could leave behind like the dust in his opulent home? A sudden commotion interrupted her thoughts. A group of Martin's peers surrounded a magnificent display featuring local artisans, and their laughter echoed through the vast expanse like a taunt. They were all, in their own way, questioning the presence of an outsider. Maria hesitated. Every instinct urged her to shrink back into the shadows of the ornate room. But the weight of the manuscript and the words trapped within fueled her courage, stirring every hidden aspiration in her heart. Maria? Martin's voice cut through the crowd, pulling her back to focus. He beckoned her over with a confident smile, and a rush of warmth filled her. Was it admiration or a fleeting whim? The light in his eyes made her heart flutter, igniting a spark of hope. "You have to see this," he continued, gesturing to a piece of handmade pottery, vibrant and raw, right at the center of the display. She approached cautiously, her heart pounding. "It's exquisite," she managed, momentarily entranced by the artistry. It unveiled an authenticity that the rest of the decor lacked. Yet, she could feel the sharp stares of his acquaintances, curious and critical, dissecting her appearance, her words. "Yes, it reminds me of the complexities of life," Martin mused, his mind flickering between his affluent knowledge and her humble truths. "I was wondering what ideals it may represent. What do you think?" Her pulse quickened. There was no turning back. "It's a reflection of resilience," she said carefully. "It's as if the imperfections tell a story, each crack and flaw makes it beautiful." Martin paused, contemplating her words. In that moment, their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them, an understanding that transcended their circumstances. He seemed to lean closer, his interest in her authentic perspective shining through. But the breath of fresh connection was swiftly smothered by the noise threatening from the crowd, fueled by their expectations. Maria felt a rush of self-doubt claw at her. Could her insights hold merit in a world so defined by wealth and status? Panic rippled through her. The very foundation of her belief in herself teetered on the edge of acceptance and dismissal. "Do you have any more thoughts on the manuscript?" Martin queried, breaking the tension before it suffocated her. His sincerity compelled her forward despite the pounding of her heart. Feeling the precariousness of the moment, every nerve in her body awakened. Yes, there was fear, immense fear, but also the exhilarating rush of possibility. In this finished moment, she had to decide. Would she confine herself to the fringes, to the shadows where comfort lay, or would she revel in the uncertainty of the unknown, risking everything for the chance to share her voice? The stakes had escalated, and Maria realized she stood at a crucial juncture. She depended not just on Martin for validation, but confronted her own fears and emerging ambition. The hallway of destiny had opened, and the unpredictability swept through her veins. Just as she opened her mouth to answer Martin, a loud clatter erupted from across the ballroom, abruptly shifting the atmosphere. All eyes turned, as the precarious balance of her newfound courage hung in the air, ready to crumble into chaos or rise to greatness. Would she be engulfed by insecurity, or could she seize this moment, the moment that could change everything? The urgency pulsed within her, and in that instant, Maria knew. The truth of her journey was not just unfolding under the weight of expectation, but rather erupting into a confrontation that would forever reshape not only her destiny, but Martin's as well. There was no turning back now. The time had come to face the unthinkable. The clatter reverberated through the grand ballroom, a jarring interruption that echoed the chaos within Maria's heart. The sound came from a toppled display of glass sculptures, scattering shards across the polished floor. Silence hung momentarily as the guests turned their attention away from her, the shift of their focus seemingly saving her from immediate scrutiny. But the pause was deceptive. Maria's pulse raced as the eyes of the crowd began to drift back toward her and Martin. The interplay of uncertainty and opportunity loomed like the precarious glass pieces. She sensed the weight of their collective judgment, an invisible tether that tightened with every passing second. "Are you okay?" Martin leaned in slightly, concern etched on his features. She forced a nod, but in truth, her mind was a flurry of thoughts, self-doubt battling with the flickering flame of her ambition. The manuscript she had timidly clutched now seemed a bold proclamation of her existence in this lavish world, a world that felt tailored exclusively to the elite. What if her insights went beyond the surface, past the polished facade? What could they offer to someone like Martin? Could they hack through the layers of privilege and touch a reality unseen? Refocusing on Martin, she recognized this was a rare moment. He saw her, truly saw her, not just as the cleaning lady, but as a conduit of ideas that could shape perspectives. The memory of their earlier connection surged through her, a silent promise of possibility. Actually, her voice broke through the whisper of uncertainty. "I have something I want to discuss." The resolve stirred within, pushing against the tightening binds of hesitation. "What is it?" Martin's eyes sparked, his attention unwavering. There's something in the manuscript about perspective, seeing beauty in the flaws that society often dismisses. Just like that pottery, she gestured to the vibrant piece they had admired earlier. "It made me realize that every crack tells a story. What if we could encourage others to embrace their imperfections, too?" The warmth of his gaze reinforced her determined stance. "Imagine what that could do in your world: art, literature, life experiences. We need more voices, more stories that reflect our truth." He regarded her with a level of intensity that ignited something deep within. The cacophony around them faded into a gentle hum, leaving their silhouette against the shimmering backdrop of the ballroom. Each heartbeat resonated with the pulse of her dreams. No longer did she merely exist on the margins. She was here to exchange ideas, to make her voice heard. Yet, reality slithered back in. She could feel the scrutiny returning. The onlookers whispered, reeled from doubt, and judged. The chasm between her and this exquisite world spun wider. Would Martin still be intrigued by her insight once the thrill of novelty waned? "How about a collaboration?" Martin suggested, a spark of excitement illuminating his eyes. "Your insights, paired with my resources together, we could create something authentic." Her heart skipped. The what-ifs were spinning wildly in her mind. But what if it didn't work? What if she failed to meet the standards of this new world? The trembling hands of apprehension clawed at her resolve, yet the echo of her voice broke through once more. "I do want it to come from an honest place. It's not about simply making something beautiful on the outside. It's about revealing the truth, the grit," she asserted. This was it. A confrontation not only with the expectations imposed by society, but with herself. This was the moment she needed to forge her path, unyielding and authentic. Acclaim and recognition began to feel like a responsibility, a chance to inspire others to acknowledge their stories. But just as clarity dawned, the sound of raised voices erupted from the crowd. Tensions were high as a confrontation began to unfold among Martin's peers, an underlying arrogance flaring amongst them. The disturbance rippled outwards, pulling her back under the weight of external chaos. "Let us step away," Martin suggested as uncertainty flickered across his face. Just as they began to move, an unfamiliar voice called out from the crowd, one laden with disdain. "Who do you think you are?" It sneered, targeting Maria. The air thickened, and her chest tightened. There was no escaping the looming storm in that fraught moment. Maria understood that she was on the precipice, one foot rooted in silence, the other stepping into the light. How far would she be willing to go to claim her place? This was the arena of her personal transformation, and whether she would falter or soar now rested solely in her hands. The confrontation was no longer happening merely between Martin and his peers, it was also one between Maria and a version of herself still buried under fear. Would she step into her power or shrink away? The clock ticked, her self-definition teetering at the edge. The moment had come. With a quick inhale, she resolved, "I'm not going anywhere." The silence that ensued was deafening, thick with unspoken thoughts and judgment. Maria felt the weight of the crowd's eyes digging into her. Her heart galloped, a drumbeat of anxiety, Yet something deeper flickered within, an ember igniting her courage. The question hurled at her wasn't just an insult. It was a challenge she didn't intend to dismiss. "Who do I think I am?" she echoed, speaking to herself as much as the voice in the crowd. "I'm someone with a story worth telling." Gathering her strength, Maria turned toward the source of the sneer. It was a tall man, cloaked in a tailored suit, exuding entitlement and dismissiveness. His expression embodied the judgment she had long learned to anticipate, yet never quite succeed at silencing. "I'm the person who sees beauty where others see flaws. I'm not just a cleaner, I'm an artist of life," she declared, voice steady despite the unyielding fight within. The crowd was taken aback momentarily, and the silence stretched as her words hung in the air. It was an unsettling blend of vulnerability and power. Martin stepped closer, reinforcing her by standing shoulder to shoulder. "She's right. We all have stories shaped by struggle and resilience. What we create should reflect that truth." He faced the crowd, challenging their narrow view with an intensity that sent shivers down Maria's spine. He was aligning himself with her, forging a connection that transcended the vibrant and decorated surfaces around them. The tension was palpable, and Maria took a breath, each inhale feeling like a lifeline. "Beauty isn't about perfection," she continued, feeling a warmth within her that urged her to expand. "It's in the cracks, the imperfections that weave our identity. I'm not afraid to embrace what makes me me. Are you?" Her challenge reverberated through the crowd, drawing a few nods and equally as much disdain. Defiance bubbled up, fueled by the adrenaline of the moment. She knew she was small in stature, but her voice rang loud with authenticity. Each word carved through the chaos, challenging the prejudgments that had not only condemned her, but many others who felt invisible in this world of wealth. One person in the crowd, a young woman, inspired by Maria's boldness, stepped forward. "I see what you mean. I feel like I've been pushed to the sidelines too." "Exactly." Maria seized the opportunity, galvanizing the moment. "Every voice matters. Think of the stories we miss when we only focus on what's deemed acceptable." The exchange thrust her further into the spotlight. It sparked a ripple effect, a smattering of applause breaking the edge of contempt. Still, there were glances exchanged, whispers that questioned her mastery of this new world, a world she had only begun to taste. As the uproar waned, Maria turned towards Martin, his eyes brimming with admiration. "This is just the beginning. We can create dialogue, not just pretty artifacts," he said earnestly. But beneath the glimmering facade of newfound confidence lay an undercurrent of fear. Was she actually equipped for this? Collaboration implied a dance of shared trust. What if she faltered? What if Martin discovered that the tender gift she offered was not enough to stand up against the towering prowess of his peers? "Let us show them what we can create," Maria replied, resolve mingling with trepidation. She understood that this venture might shatter her, or it could build her anew. As the atmosphere shifted, still pregnant with uncertainty, a provocative thought surfaced. The challenge facing her was far more than external. It was a battle for agency, for the right to shape her narrative. "Let us meet tomorrow. I want to map out our vision," Martin said, gesturing to leave the buzzing crowd that now felt like a cage. Maria nodded, excitement coursing through her veins. But as they stepped away, her mind raced with questions. Could she afford to be vulnerable within a partnership that loomed larger than herself? What did it mean to truly collaborate? Before they made their exit, the man who had initially scoffed turned, smirking. "You'll regret this," he said. It was a threat disguised as an assurance. "I regret nothing," Maria countered, her voice stronger than before. As they walked away, she could feel the lightness of possibility hanging in the air. The battle she faced wasn't over, but each step toward collaboration pushed away the darkness that had once clouded her vision. She was becoming an identity that couldn't be boxed into societal expectations. But as she laid her head on her pillow that night, sleep evading her, a question loomed larger than any moment before. Would she be able to sustain this new version of herself in the crucible of her ambitions? Maria shifted under the weight of the unknown, the future casting a long shadow, unclear yet undeniably compelling. Another round awaited her. The next morning was drenched in uncertainty as Maria awoke to the soft sunlight filtering through her window, casting patterns of warmth across her room. It felt like a strange contrast to the turmoil that churned within her. The events of last night replayed in her mind, each detail sharpening the image of the confrontation, the applause, and her own words morphing into a declaration that would not easily fade away. Maria made her way to the small kitchen, pouring a cup of coffee as she stared out the window. She breathed in deeply, trying to summon the strength she felt in the moment of her speech. But the remnants of doubt clung to her like fog, a reminder of the man's taunting prediction echoing in her thoughts. Would this truly lead to a transformation, not just externally but deep within her? Deciding that she needed to step into the day with purpose, she grabbed her notebook and began to sketch out ideas. Her vision was fuzzy, but the urgency to articulate her thoughts pushed her to scribble fervently. What exactly did she want to create? What message did she hope to share with the world surrounding her? With each line, Maria discovered a flicker of excitement, mixed with trepidation. The concept of beauty in imperfection emerged as the central theme. She envisioned art that could weave her life experiences, her struggles, resilience, and aspirations into a tapestry that others could not only relate to but also see reflected in themselves. Nevertheless, as the clock ticked closer to her meeting with Martin, anxiety crawled back. What if her ideas weren't sophisticated enough? She had lived a life marked by mundane routines, the rituals of cleaning, while he belonged to a world of palettes and canvases, of luxury and leisure. The erudition that so often laced artistic expression felt vastly out of reach. When the time finally came, she stepped into the cafe where they agreed to meet. Her heart beat a strange rhythm, equal parts anticipation and dread. The air buzzed with the murmurs of other patrons, drowning her in a wave that felt both exhilarating and isolating. She scanned the room until her gaze landed on Martin, his demeanor relaxed yet focused, already drafting on a napkin. "Hey, I'm excited to see what you've been working on," he beamed as she settled across from him. "I've jotted down a few thoughts," Maria replied hesitantly, her notebook held tightly in her hands. Martin's enthusiasm sparked a flicker of confidence, compelling her to loosen her grip and share her vision. "I've thought about how beauty isn't about being flawless," she began, her voice gathering strength as she unfolded her ideas. "It's about the stories behind the imperfections, the battles we fight within ourselves. I want to create art that embodies that." Martin listened intently, his eyes practically sparkling with interest as he nodded along. "Yes, that's a beautiful start, Maria. We can use that as the framework for our project. It aligns perfectly with what I envisioned too, a collection that celebrates authenticity." Her heart swelled, ignited by the connection they were forging. As they brainstormed back and forth, ideas began to flow like water, their contributions creating a synergy that felt both thrilling and validating. However, with every moment of confidence, griping doubts returned like unwelcome guests, lingering below the surface. The critical voice crept in. Could she truly keep up with him? Just as she was gaining momentum, the door swung open, and the man from the crowd entered, scanning for familiar faces. Her pulse quickened, fear seizing her throat at the sight of him. His eyes locked onto hers, and his smirk returned, a haunting reminder of her vulnerabilities. She could feel Martin's gaze shift to her, concern etched into his features. The comforting momentum of collaboration faltered, and her mind spiraled, teetering on the edge of confidence and despair. Who does he think he is? She questioned silently, the defiance simmering within her. This wasn't just about art or expression anymore, it was about standing up for who she was. A thought crystallized in her mind, challenging her to rethink everything. It was no longer about surviving in someone else's world. It was about carving out her own space within it. "I want to let him dictate my narrative," Maria whispered, an unexpected resolve emerging. As the man approached their table, intent on confrontation, Maria prepared to respond, a newfound boldness shaping her expression. The moment of truth arrived, the confrontation inevitable. Would she let his presence overshadow her gains, or would she rise to claim her story confidently? The air thickened with tension, a pivotal moment to define her next move. The man leaned against their table, the smugness in his demeanor morphing into a provoking smirk. "Still pretending to be an artist, I see," he sneered, his gaze flicking dismissively to Maria's notebook. Each word was a needle, pricking at the fragile confidence she had just begun to weave around herself. But rather than shrink under the weight of his derision, something ignited within her. She straightened her back, feeling the solidity of the cafe and the warmth of Martin's nearby presence as an anchor. "I'm not pretending. I am an artist," she stated, her voice steady though a tremor danced beneath the surface. Her declaration hung in the air, mingling with the buzz of conversation all around them. Martin's attention shifted to her fully, intrigue crossing his features. The intentions in his eyes told her he wasn't about to let this moment slip into the shadows. The man's smirk faltered, and for the first time, uncertainty flickered across his face. "What makes you think your story matters?" he challenged, his bravado waning slightly. Her pulse quickened, but she took a deep breath, grounding herself. This was the moment she had been rehearsing in her mind all along. "It matters because it's real," Maria replied, her passion igniting with each syllable. "Beauty comes from struggle. It's not about luxury or perfection. It's about resilience. I know that because I've lived it." She caught a glimpse of Martin nodding in encouragement, and it propelled her forward. This wasn't just about her skills as an artist. It was about confronting the voices that sought to diminish her. "Art is meant to reflect the truth of our experiences. I want to create pieces that tell these stories," she elaborated, her conviction bubbling over. "Stories of survival, of embracing flaws, and understanding that transformation comes from within, not from societal expectations." The man blinked, seemingly caught off guard by her fortitude. For a fleeting moment, he appeared to consider her words, the wall of his skepticism cracking. But her resolve was mingled with disappointment as new doubts emerged. Would he simply couch his criticism in greater disdain when he found his footing again? "Don't make it sound so noble," he retorted with a scoff, though the confidence in his voice wasn't what it had been. "Who would want to look at the ugly side of life? Maybe the people who actually live it," Maria fired back, barely recognizing herself in that moment of assertiveness. She felt the adrenaline course through her veins, battling against the background noise, the murmurs, the clattering of dishes, but the enormity of the confrontation fueled her. As the words rolled off her tongue, there was a shift. The energy coiling around them was charged, raw. It was no longer just about winning an argument or impressing Martin. It felt like a declaration to the universe. She was here to claim her space, her artistry, and her journey. "Honestly," she continued, her voice still firm, "the rawness is where connection lies. If I can convey my struggles through art, maybe someone else will see their struggles reflected. People need to feel less alone." Before the man could retort, Martin broke in with palpable enthusiasm. "Exactly, Maria. You've captured something profound. Together, we can challenge perceptions and present something that genuinely resonates." The man, now visibly rattled, tossed a dismissive glance. "Good luck with that," he muttered, retreating as quickly as he had approached, the remnants of his superiority lost in the wind, as the door swung shut behind him. Maria felt a surge of relief mixed with exhilaration. Her heart raced, but it was different this time, a melody to her newfound clarity. The air in the cafe felt lighter, and the ripples of confrontation morphed into possibilities. She turned to Martin, their eyes locking in a moment of mutual recognition. "Thank you," she breathed, overwhelmed by the significance of standing her ground. "Don't thank me yet," he grinned, the spark of ideas igniting once more. "Let us see what we can build from this." Yet, as Maria leaned into the optimism of collaboration, doubt still whispered at the edges of her thoughts. This was just the beginning. Would the courage she discovered this day hold as she faced potential critiques and challenges in the real world? Far removed from this cafe, uncertainty loomed, and beneath her thrill, a question lingered. Would she be able to sustain this momentum or risk falling prey to faltering confidence once more? The journey ahead promised more than she anticipated, and Maria knew she was just scratching the surface of what it meant to truly own her narrative. With the thrill of creativity mixed with the weight of rising expectations, she braced herself for the next chapter, unaware of the formidable encounters that awaited her path. The morning sun filtered through the cafe windows, casting a warm golden hue on Maria's freshly sketched drawings. She traced her fingers over the paper, her mind racing with ideas ignited by the confrontation from the day before. Gratitude still mingled with trepidation as she contemplated her next moves. Martin had suggested they host a small gathering to share their visions, inviting artists and storytellers to engage in a dialogue that would push boundaries. The thought thrilled Maria, yet the weight of impending exposure clawed at her. Stepping out of her comfort zone was daunting. What if her art elicited the same scorn the man had thrown at her? She took a sip of her coffee, its warmth spreading through her, urging her to shake off her fears. This was her moment. She resolved to craft an opening piece that encapsulated her journey raw, unfiltered, and entirely honest. Every stroke of her pencil needed to resonate with the truth of her existence, and that meant confronting not just external critics, but the internal ones as well. Reflecting on her encounter, Maria realized each dismissal only served to deepen her resolve. Art was subjective, and if she aimed to elicit genuine emotions, she needed to break free from societal expectations that sought to cage her creativity. Eschewing the idea that art must be palatable or aesthetically easy to digest, she recognized that her authenticity was what would ultimately draw people in. With renewed determination, she sketched with fervor images of battles fought against despair, embraces of imperfections, and stories of resilience flowed onto the page. Her pencil danced, sketching a visual narrative that felt true and powerful. It became clear, she wasn't merely creating art, she was sculpting a part of her soul, a declaration of her beliefs about strength and vulnerability. As the day of their gathering approached, excitement morphed into anxiety. The cafe wall, once a blank canvas, would soon display her art amongst others. She gripped her sketches, knowing that each unveiling demanded a piece of her that she'd never fully revealed before. What if it wasn't enough? What if the crowd was filled with skeptics like the man who had approached them? Every thought spiraled into a cacophony of what-ifs, and it was in those moments, late at night, that her resolve teetered. Each time she picked up her pencil, her hand shook, her heart raced, fear coiling tightly within her. How could she showcase the truth of her life? One evening, as she rifled through her sketchbook, she found a small drawing she had made months ago, a simple figure standing alone, surrounded by a darkening sky. The raw emotion in that piece echoed her current tumult. She had captured despair intimately. The figure's stance, both vulnerable and courageous, embodied everything she feared and hoped to convey. It dawned on her then. Embracing discomfort was part of the journey. She couldn't expect her art to resonate without honestly portraying her struggles. This was who she was, a cleaning lady dreaming an artist's dream, and that blend of experiences offered a lens through which to narrate real stories. Gazing down at her sketches, Maria realized she wasn't prepared just to share her work. She was ready to confront her own narrative and invite others to do the same. This wasn't just about presenting art, it was a challenge laid out to herself and to the world, to embrace and accept the beauty in the chaos of life. With each passing day, the date of the gathering loomed larger, like a wave ready to crash. Maria's creative anxiety transformed into a flicker of excitement. This gathering would not merely be a showcase. It would be a communion of souls exchanging truths through art. Finally, the evening arrived. As she stood before the assembled crowd, her heart thrummed in her chest, each beat echoing the pulse of anticipation and fear. This wasn't just about surviving the moment. It was about thriving through it. She took a deep breath, feeling the air catch in her lungs. The moment of vulnerability had come, where she would finally face her audience, those who would witness her raw narrative. Would they connect with her story, or would there be echoes of that earlier ridicule? And as she stepped up to unveil her first piece, she pondered, was she ready to not only showcase her art, but to also bare her soul before those waiting? The pivotal moment of truth had arrived. Maria stepped to the front of the room, the murmurs of the crowd washing over her like a faint tide. As her gaze fell on her artwork propped against the cafe wall, the fleeting warmth of confidence flickered out against the starkness of her insecurities. The first piece of visual expression of her fight against despair stood ready before a sea of eyes. She hesitated, the silence amplifying the beats of her heart. What would they see, a cleaning lady's struggles laid bare, or merely flawed sketches? Each second felt like an eternity, and she blinked hard against rising anxiety. "Good evening, everyone," she began, her voice steadying through sheer will. "Thank you for being here tonight." The words felt surreal, a tentative bridge connecting the past her life to this daring present. As she unveiled her first sketch, gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd, a mixture of intrigue and confusion. The figure within her drawing seemed to sway, embodying both fragility and strength, a poignant reminder of her struggles. She hungered for acceptance yet feared the judgment that had shattered her spirit before. I wanted to share a piece of my journey through my art, she continued, her breath more measured now. Every line represents a struggle, a moment I faced and overcame. With every sentence, she noticed skeptical glances and empathetic looks intermingled. Did they see her? The murmurs intensified, but Maria pushed on, infusing her words with the raw energy that stemmed from within her. The stories behind her art began to seep out into the air, threading invisible connections among the audience members. She spoke of loneliness in a crowded room, of moments when the weight of responsibility lay heavy on her shoulders, and of the fleeting moments of joy she found scrubbing floors alongside dreams of creating. Yet as she presented, another criticism hummed at the back of her mind, the very essence of her self-worth, baked into her identity as both an artist and a cleaner. Her palms began to sweat, and a tremor ran through her voice as the look of the man from yesterday echoed inside her head. What if they don't understand? What if my truth is too raw? Just as doubt threatened to choke her expression, she recalled the figure from her small drawing, the one embodying both despair and courage, rooted in its place, yet powerful. If she could embrace her humanity, where was the room for fear? Embracing her weaknesses could very well transform them into strength. With newfound resolve, Maria leaned into her vulnerability. I am a cleaning lady whose dreams stretch far beyond the lines of this page. I stand before you, not as a polished artist, but as a woman eager to share her truth, she declared. The atmosphere shifted as nods of understanding and encouragement rippled through the audience. At that moment, a connection sparked not just between her and the viewers, but among them, as if they too were discovering something profound within themselves. And then, it happened. One of the audience members raised a hand, a woman who appeared to be in her 40s with a lined forehead, eyes glistening with empathy. Your art touches something real, she said, her voice clear. It makes me think about what I hide in my own life. Seconds stretched, fear wrapped tightly around Maria, but it was a different energy now. Instead of recoiling from vulnerable recognition, she stepped deeper into the conversation, inviting others to embrace their stories as well. As the discussions flourished, Maria sensed her trajectory shifting, a flicker of what could be a connection she had yearned for but seldom encountered. Each shared moment unraveled latent threads of resilience and hope, rippling through her newfound relationships. Yet, unlike the warmth of acceptance, uncertainty still nagged at her. What would happen when the euphoria of connection faded, leaving her to face her personal challenges alone once again? Just as she began to feel the warmth of belonging imprinting on her, the door swung open, revealing a tall figure who stepped inside. As he moved closer, Maria's heart raced. Recognition surged. It was him, the man who had criticized her, the man who had embodied her fears, yet also the flame to her resolve. Would this encounter bolster her newfound confidence or threaten to unravel everything? The cogwheels within her mind quickly spun, and she felt the threshold of another decisive moment. Maria felt the room's energy shift palpably as the man approached. Each step stirred a mixture of nerves and curiosity within her. The duality of her past experience and her present resolve swirled like smoke in her mind. There he was, ever imposing, dressed impeccably in tailored suits that whispered privilege. What if he was here to diminish her efforts once more? The patrons parted for him, their exuberant conversations faltering as they took notice. Maria glanced around. Their expressions mirrored her own turmoil. Curiosity mingled with apprehension. The connection she had felt just moments ago appeared to dangle in precarious daylight. Would it shatter? Maria, he said, extending a hand. His voice cut through the hush like a knife, confident yet layered with something she dared not decipher. Hello, she replied, taking a deep breath before shaking his hand. It felt like sealing a deal. Her heart pulsed in her ears. She could feel its thrum matching the burgeoning conflict inside her. I wanted to talk to you about your art. He eyed the sketches, positioning himself at the forefront of her unveiling. Your perspective, it's unique. His words were a thin thread of elevation, yet the cracks in her confidence reflected every judgment he passed before. What was it he truly felt? She scrutinized him, searching for authentic paper trails amidst uncharted territory. "Thank you," she replied, testing the waters of this unexpected interaction. "I came in questioning the entire artistic endeavor," he admitted, his gaze still steady on her first piece. "But your piece, your story, it challenged my assumptions. I think I was wrong about art from people like you." She bristled at his phrase, "people like you." Was he attempting to lessen her struggle, placing her in a category she resented? "What does that mean?" she asked, the brittle edges of her voice belying the fire inside. "Don't mistake me, I have the utmost respect for your journey now," he rushed to clarify, the sincerity in his eyes visible, though still ensconced in his privilege. It was a layered acknowledgement, and the depths of his admission intrigued her. "Why did you come here exactly?" she queried, instinctively testing his intentions. Did he seek redemption, or was it curiosity wrapped in condescension? "I came for dialogue," he replied simply. "I wanted to understand how someone like you finds the courage to present their vulnerabilities in art." It struck me as profoundly brave tonight. His appeal pulled at Maria's burgeoning confidence, yet skepticism wrapped around her. Vulnerability was her shield, but deception was a shred away. "So, you value my art now?" "I didn't know how much I needed perspective until I heard your story," he continued, the fervor in his words elevating her tension into a palpable force. "I thought ambition was only about wealth, about owning products rather than producing experiences." Each word wrapped around Maria, stimulating contemplation. Could he genuinely appreciate the crux of her struggle, the way her hands shared stories of survival hidden in paint strokes? "Art is a lens," she said, her voice gathering strength. "It shows us parts we keep masked, reveals our humanity. As an artist, that's my weapon." His brow furrowed as though her revelation was a novel idea, and she felt a surge of power in this potential coalescence of worlds. "Maybe we can collaborate," he suggested, catching her off guard. "I can offer opportunities to connect artists like you with a broader audience." The room's warmth intensified, but Maria remained wary. "Why would you invest in me? Your world and mine operate on such different frequencies. How will this not end in disappointment?" Without hesitation, he replied, "Because your truth can awaken something in others, not just in the audience, but back in the industry." His gaze pierced through the facade, and she felt a ripple of challenge pass between them. Uncertainty settled in her gut. This interaction could ignite her trajectory or unravel her sense of self. Could she trust someone who had once dismissed her? Yet that seed of ambition he dangled was enticing, a pathway to amplification. Now at a crossroads, Maria was faced with a decision. Accept the opportunity and possibly reclaim parts of her identity, or retreat into the familiarity of doubt and fear. The next moments would shape the collision of these transformed worlds, testing the very foundation of her growth and the hesitant bridges she had just begun to build. Would she choose to venture into this uncharted territory? As she opened her mouth to respond, a pivotal realization struck her. The line between courage and fear, authenticity and expectation, blurred irreversibly in that instant. An opportunity lay before her, but acceptance would demand more than just willingness. What would she uncover about herself in this new venture? And could she confront the shadows of judgment that loomed heavy on her path? Would she ultimately rebel against or embrace the expectations woven into her narrative? Maria stood at the precipice of her journey, immersed in both apprehension and exhilaration. The unfolding narrative of her life had spiraled into a dynamic interplay of identity and newfound purpose. She gazed at the man before her, who represented not just a potential ally, but an embodiment of her past apprehensions and present aspirations. "Your world is different from mine," she stated, her voice steady. "But perhaps it's time I learned to bridge the gaps." With each word, she felt an anchor of conviction solidifying within her. By vocalizing her intention to collaborate, she was claiming ownership of her artistry. This was the moment to command her narrative, weaving the tapestry of her experiences into the broader community she long desired to engage with. "Let us do something that matters, that challenges norms," Maria continued, her thoughts crystallizing and blending into action. "We can create art that is not just viewed but experienced, that compels people to reflect on their own struggles and resilience." The glimmer of hope broke through the clouds of doubt that had frequently shadowed her ambitions. She was transformed, no longer just a cleaning lady with dreams, but now an artist ready to leave her mark. This was not merely a shift in identity. It was an evolution, an acknowledgement of her worth, and a testament to the power of her story. As conversations surged around her, Martin's presence beside her symbolized not just support, but a partnership destined to yield revolutionary outcomes. They began to sketch plans, ideas flowing like water, as if awakened by the very prospect of creative collaboration. Every discussion, every suggestion, strengthened a budding resolve and confidence that she had never thought possible. In the subsequent weeks, together they organized a workshop inviting artists from diverse backgrounds to share their narratives. Maria's sketches, filled with raw emotion, created a dialogue that invited viewers to embrace their vulnerabilities. As she engaged with fellow artists on stage, standing firm in her truth, she witnessed transformation not just within herself, but in the audience. Every story told ignited sparks of unity and empathy. Recognition came swiftly. A local art dealer approached Maria and Martin after one of their exhibits, intrigued by the authenticity of their work. "I want to help you expand this project," he declared, excited by the notion that their art could inspire community engagement and discussions beyond superficial beauty. Maria felt herself ascend with each affirmation of her efforts. This wasn't mere validation. It was proof that stepping into her identity as an artist not only empowered her, but also resonated with others seeking connection. Facing her fears had forged a bridge, a pathway from doubt to accomplished resolve. One afternoon, amidst preparations for their next exhibition, Maria opened a letter addressed to her. It was an invitation to showcase her work at a prestigious gallery, an opportunity she had once deemed impossible. Tears brimmed in her eyes as her heart swelled with undeniable pride. She had achieved a milestone she once only fantasized about. As she stepped into the gallery a week later, the warmth of light flooded her, illuminating not just the art adorned on the walls, but the essence of who she had become. It was exhilarating to see her struggles transformed into a conversation starter, eliciting reflections from attendees that aligned with her core that flawless art is often a disguise for empty narratives. In connection with others, Maria finally recognized the profound impact of her story. It was not just her personal triumph. It was a reminder to everyone around her that vulnerability births connection. Each compliment she received resonated like music, a melody of validation, strong and euphoric. "I see you," she whispered as her fingers traced her artwork, feeling an embrace from each stroke filled with narrative. Acknowledgement from those observing her work shifted her understanding of success. It was not just an individual endeavor, but a collective, awakening a moment where she stood confidently at the intersection of doubt and ambition, triumphantly holding the space once reserved for her insecurities. Maria's journey had irrevocably reshaped her life, not through external validation, but through an internal drive she had finally embraced. With pride swelling within, she acknowledged the remarkable distance she had traversed. From the dim corners of uncertainty to the radiant spaces of creativity, she had become a beacon of authenticity. With a heart full, Maria faced forward, ready to challenge the expectations of both herself and the world that had once dismissed her. No longer merely the cleaning lady, she was an artist, of voice breathing life into the narratives of many. Now, she knew, it was time to forge ahead and encourage others to recognize their truths, to unleash the stories lying dormant beneath the surface. This was only the beginning, a discovery of beauty and resilience that transcended her own existence. The world awaited her continued evolution, a canvas just waiting to be painted afresh. So, embrace your journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.